5 match there for Erik Smith was actually in his favor because game 1 he's a dog against shields, but he can sideboard into a lean killing machine, which he was able to do, and win the match. So we are underway here in the finals between Erik Smith and Andrew Tenjum. Smith, your 7 seed, Tenjum, your 8. So Smith will be on the play. He's going to start off with an Overgrown Tomb. There's a Cavern of Souls, and we're going to see a Scavenging Ooze to start the show.
Both these players, the 7 and 8 seeds, actually have lost all the die rolls up to this point, but have been able to, come back in the later games or just not care.
Sun Petal Grove for Tenjum, followed up with a Voice of Resurgence, and I think we're going to see just a lot of standoffs between green creatures just going back and forth and back and forth. Brian Kibler is probably pretty happy somewhere seeing 2 green decks here in the finals.
Yeah, what we see a lot of times in these green mirrors is it's not the early plays that matters, it's those trump plays, the cards that will win if left unanswered. So when I think about that, we're thinking about things like Mizium Mortars and Thundermaw Hellkite from Andrew Tenjum. From Erik Smith, we're looking at things like Olivia Voldaren and Bonfire of the Damned.
Now, oddly enough, you see 2 players here who were stuck on 2 lands. Smith actually drew his 3rd land this turn, but he missed his 3rd land drop for a moment.
Yeah, this is turn 4 right now, so both players hit their, both players missed on their 3rd land. The question is, will Tenjum be able to, keep pace with Erik hitting his 3rd land here? Kind
of a stinky Dreadbore there from Smith, but the idea behind this is, I'm going to take care of that now. I'll remove that Voice of Resurgence to Scavenging Ooze, and I'll be perfectly fine. As here's a 3rd Voice of Resurgence. The Elemental token is a 3/3 now, and Smith is just going to take it on the chin, go down to 13, and looks like he's going to pass the turn back.
Yep, now remember that Cavern of Souls was set to human, which is a pretty big tell that Erik Smith has Huntmaster of the Fells in his hand. So, despite the fact he's at 13, Andrew Tenjum has to know that damage is going to be fairly short-lived.
Speak of the devil, and it shall appear, Huntmaster of the Fells, its friend and 2 life will be joining the party to maybe do some trading with these elemental deers, but they'll leave behind some larger elementals that Smith will have to deal with. So let's see what kind of blocking he's going to do on this turn, if any at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Erik Smith, you have to be careful about killing these Voice of Resurgences. You want to make sure that the elemental tokens won't kill you. I think his best weapon right now on the board is that there's Scavenging Ooze in play, and there will be at least 2 creatures in the graveyard, so he'll be able to make the Ooze into a 4/4, and hopefully even bigger so that it can start answering the elemental tokens. But until he does that, he could take a lot of damage off these elementals.
A good attack here from Tenjum. He gets in with all the creatures. You see the Wolf try to block the Voice of Resurgence. Gorkline Rampage is going to make that a poor block. Going to get a bunch of damage through, but Blood Rushing and Gorkline Rampage on Matthias is not a spell, so Ravager of the Fells, so long as Smith does remember, he almost didn't for a second there, is going to flip, can take down a Voice of Resurgence, and an Elemental token is going to come out now. There's a 3/3.
Well, 6 is a really low life total here. You see Erik Smith drew a Thragtusk, but he does not have that last land he needs. So he really just needs to survive until he can cast this Mizium Mortars in his hand, or this Thragtusk, or just somehow get his life total under control. He's far enough ahead that as long as he doesn't die to these Voice of Resurgences, he should be looking pretty good.
I'm actually liking how this turn lines up for Smith here. He's got a Mizium Mortars that he can cast. You saw him move the Summit over with the Cavern of Souls. The green mana and Overgrown Tomb and Woodland Cemetery on the left. That means he has 2 activations from Scavenging Ooze that he can target 2 of Tenjum's cards, make that into a 4/4, but most importantly, gain a bunch of life. So what is he going to kill with the Mortars? He'll take care of the Elemental.
Yeah, and this is a good move because it's a life-saving move, and that it saves him life points. If you hit the Voice of Resurgence, the last one, there'll be 3 elementals, and if Andrew makes a creature, suddenly you have a bunch of 4-power creatures, and Ravager can't eat those creatures. Ravager trades with those creatures.
Pretty aggressive attack here with Ravager. Going to get into the red zone here. Means he has 1 blocker on defense, Scavenging Ooze, which can turn into a 4/4.
That's really an aggressive attack there. I think part of it is he wants to get Andrew's life total low enough so that he probably knows that once Andrew hits the 3rd land, we're going to start seeing things like Luxodon Smiters, Boros Reckoners. Erik wants to seize this opportunity with his opponent being stuck on 2 to do as much damage as he can now.
I like the activations here before the block with Scavenging Ooze. He's going to go up to 7 and remove the Rampager, go up to 8, remove a Voice of Resurgence, and then decide what he wants to block.
Well, he has to hope there's not another Gorkland Rampager.
Bad news, there is, and that's why I'm with you. I didn't really like the attack with the Ravager of the Fells because, that thing's back on defense. Things are a little bit different here. Now the Ooze is gone. It did gain him some life, but 4 trample damage plus 2 regular means that Smith right now should be at 2. And Bonfire of the Damned off of the top is going to turn things around here
and
for Smith.
Really good miracle here for Erik Smith. It takes care of both of Andrew's creatures. Andrew drops to 11. has no way yet to push across that last 2 damage. I do think he has one in his hand, though. He's going to make a Boros Reckoner.
He also he's drawn a land and Temple Guard, and he has a Sublime Archangel in his hand as well. So Sublime Archangel would make the Elemental into a 2/2, then Exalted Triggers would actually make the Elemental into a 4/4, so into the red zone we go.
Right, Erik has no choice but to block here. And yeah, he's counting it up, realizing, yeah, okay, that block's going to happen. Not a block he should be very excited about.
Yeah, I wouldn't be thrilled about it either. He's going to untap, he's going to draws a Scavenging Ooze, he's stuck with Thragtusk in his hand, Bonfire that he cannot cast, and it looks like he's going to die to a beautiful Mythic Angel.
Yeah, even if he has the land for Thragtusk here, he's dead to any creature from Andrew, because that will give the extra Exalted.
Well, Andrew only has 28 creatures in his main deck, so he probably wouldn't have one.
Right. So that will be 2. Sorry, it'd be 2 creatures. He
Sure.
would be 2, but I mean, it's still pretty grim for him.
Yeah. So we're going to bring it back to the booth because it is trivia time yet again, and this time we're not giving away 12 months. We'll be giving away a copy of Next Level Deck Building, Patrick Chapin's brand new ebook. If you haven't seen anything about that, make sure you do check out StarCityGames.com. All the information is there for you guys. Over 500 pages of fun in there.
Yeah, I've actually had a chance to read a little bit of it this weekend. A really great read. There's an entire section which I actually found on, the theories behind 4 ofs, 3 ofs, 2 ofs, and like the roles of creatures in each deck, and like talking about them. It's a lot of great stuff. If you haven't done read a lot of deck building theory, Chapin is really one of the better minds in explaining this stuff.
Yeah, one of the best deck builders of all time. You guys know about all the decks he likes to build. He loves to brew as well. You can read how to get into his mind, see how he builds decks with Next Level Deck Building. And again, I'm going to ask you a trivia question. Make sure you do hashtag your answer, SCG Premium on Twitter. We will select one person from the people who do get it correct, so it is about accuracy, not speed, at the conclusion of the finals.
Right.
So, the question for you, my friends, Erik Smith, 5-3 in Standard, 7-0-1 in Legacy this weekend.
Right.
One of the best Legacy records of the entire weekend. The question for you is, what is the Legacy deck that he played to go 7-0-1 with? Hashtag your answer, SCG Premium. We'll announce the winner at the conclusion of this round, and that person will get a copy of Next Level Deck Building.
Actually, it's a pretty interesting Legacy deck. I don't believe we ever got it on camera, but
No.
a really great list.
And it's a pretty rare deck to actually see. It's starting to pick up a little bit over the past month or so, and it's making its way into Legacy format. We've got a Legacy tournament to cover after this, so maybe we'll see some of it this weekend.
All right.
Let's take a look at the sideboards, my friend. Erik Smith, you're down a game. You'll be on the play. Jund versus Naya. Tenjum up a game. He's kind of been slicing and dicing his way through this top 8. 3-0ing Jerry Thompson, beating Michael Braverman 3-1, the top seed.
Yeah, he lost his very first game to Michael Braverman, and since then is on, I believe, a 6-game win streak.
A bit of a heater. Erik Smith's going to try to derail that. He's got a Golgari Charm. He's got 2 copies of Curse of Death's Hold, an Underworld Connections, 2 copies of Pillar of Flame, 2 Liliana the Veil, a Barter in Blood, 2 Duress, 1 Rakdos' Return, a Sire of Insanity, 2 Lifebane Zombie. Outside of Lifebane Zombie, which I think is an obvious inclusion, anything jumping out at you here?
Well, this matchup's pretty fast. You have to think that once one player establishes board presence and then gets ahead on the board, the only way the other person comes back is off something like Bonfire of the Damned. So you really want cards that hit hard right away. I could see you using a Barter in Blood to do that as well.
Okay. And of course, Barter and Blood can be really good in this matchup. There are times it'll be a little bit mediocre because of Voice of Resurgence, but at the end of the day, I think I agree with you. Where you think you want to board in that card anyway in lieu of Voice of Resurgence, because the cards that it can hit when it does, it's going to be pretty good. Take a look at Tenjum's sideboard here. 2 copies of Ratchet Bomb, 2 Zealous Conscripts, 2 Burning Earth, 3 Boros Charm, 2 Brave Revelation, 2 Blasphemous Act, 2 Pillar of Flame. We'll go a little bit slower here because I think there's some very interesting options here for Tenjum. The first one being Blasphemous Act against Jund when he has Boros Reckoner in his deck. How do you feel about that?
Well, so Andrew plays 28 creatures to Erik's 14. As a result of that, the Blasphemous, a sweeper isn't really what you want to be boarding in this matchup if it was only a sweeper. Now, there's a second element to Blasphemous Act, and that it does combo with Boros Reckoner to deal 13 damage. So then let's talk about whether or not that's a strategy he wants. That's usually good against when there's a deck where you'll stall out and you need some extra way to win in the end. Erik Smith has a lot of pinpoint removal to blow out that play with, to kill the Boros Reckoner with the Blasphemous Act on the stack. So even if he assembles the combo, it's not a guarantee that it would work. I'm guessing it's a little ambitious then on both fronts. I don't really like it as a sweeper. I don't really like it as a combo kill. Because of that, I don't know if it's entirely great in this matchup.
All right, we'll take a look at Zealous Conscripts. Again, you mentioned that there are only 14 creatures here in Smith's deck. All of them are pretty good, though. Thragtusk, Countermatch to the Fells. We'll call it Ravager of the Fells in a perfect world. Olivia Voldaren and Scavenging Ooze. All cards probably worth taking with Zealous Conscripts. Additionally, Conscripts removes a blocker out of the way, and it does have haste, so it represents a healthy amount of damage. How do you feel about that here?
Conscripts is a lot better in that sort of situation. When you're the person with more creatures, then you usually can assume that the other player is playing less creatures but larger creatures. So something that can remove a blocker for a turn is really a powerful weapon. There'll be a board state maybe where Andrew has 3 creatures that are being held off by something like a Thragtusk or an Olivia, and then you could see a Zealous Conscripts actually just be able to swing for the win in that situation.
And last but certainly not least, Burning Earth, a card that mono red decks and red aggressive decks are going towards beating Jund. You're not going to find a lot of copies of this in Tenjum's sideboard. There's only 2 of them, but do you like that still here as you see Tenjum's going to take a mulligan to 6?
Smith can't get rid of it if it hits the table. That said, Erik, so as we know, Burning Earth's really good against blue, white, red because they essentially have to get rid of it. They can't just, maybe if they're at 13 you play a Burning Earth, they can't win the rest of the game on 12 mana. That's unreasonable. Jund can win the rest of the game on 12 mana in those sorts of situations. It would prefer not to. Okay. It's probably still worth boarding in, but it's not as strong as I think it would be against a Revelation deck.
Okay. And again, for Tenjum, you take a look at his mana base. He's got 2 basics of his own. He's only got 2 forests. You take a look at Smith's, he actually has no basics. So by playing a Burning Earth, you're going to kind of have that Mana Barbs type effect that we've seen from red decks in years past, where they play a Mana Barbs against the deck they're supposed to play it against, and all of a sudden, shoot, I need to actually cast a spell to be able to win the game because my opponent played a Thragtusk, which he took 5, but then he gained 5, and now I need to be able to catch back up and deal myself damage, and it can actually be detrimental to himself. So I'm interested to see if he boarded those in this matchup, or maybe he's only using them against blue, white, red, and Esper.
Yeah. Well, the danger of boarding in something like that is it's a card that doesn't affect the board. As we saw in that last game, being ahead on the board was really important for Andrew Tenjum. That's how he got the last game.
Overgrown Tomb to start here for Smith. Tenjum happy enough with his 6 cards, draws an Avacyn's Pilgrim for the turn. Timely, I would say, as Stomping Ground's going to come into play untapped, down to 18, and here is the Pilgrim.
Nothing like only drawing your mana creatures on turn 1 when you need them.
Smith here with a Blood Crypt, so no Farseek, no quote God draw here from Jund. Tenjum going to be able to keep up, draws a Mysium Mortars for the turn, so he does have an answer to a Hot Match to the Fells and Olivia Voldaren. In comes that Avacyn's Pilgrim. Here's a Voice of Resurgence as follow-up. So an aggressive start here for Tenjum.
Yeah, yet again we see that Voice of Resurgence coming off from Tenjum as he's able to get ahead in the early game. This time though, there's a good response from Erik Smith. That's going to be a Lifebane Zombie. Especially against this mulligan, he's really leaving Andrew with very few threats.
Yeah, Lifebane Zombie is going to reveal a Sacred Foundry, a Scavenging Ooze, a Temple Garden, and a Mysium Mortar. So there goes the Ooze, as Tenjum's going to untap and draw. He will find a mystery card. It looked like it may have been a land.
I think it's a Gavany Township.
That is exactly what it's going to be. So, are we going to come in with that Voice of Research? It's going to come in with both guys saying, hey, Lifebane Zombie, feel free to trade with whatever you want to. I'm not going to Mysium Mortars you.
And interestingly enough, Erik Smith decides not even to block the Avacyn's Pilgrim with his Lifebane Zombie. It seems that he has after clearing out that creature from Andrew's hand, he has a pretty big willingness to just race here. And I like that, especially as we know, Andrew doesn't know, Erik has that race on the back of, I believe not 1 but 2 Thragtusks.
There are 2 Thragtusks over there. There's also a Kesset Wolf Run to really speed up the damage race in the further turns, as in comes Tenjum with that Voice of Resurgence, threatening Gavany Township activation. That's what we're going to see. So the Voice will deal 3, the Pilgrim will become a 2/2, and Tenjum is content passing the turn back. But Smith, as you did mention, is going to be able to get that life right back here in the form of a Thragtusk.
Right, the Gavany Township activations are a little scary, but it's unlikely that the Gavany Township will pump a creature large enough that that Thragtusk won't still be able to trade with it. Erik does have this clock because he has an Intimidator in play. It's going to probably eventually force this Mysium Mortars out of Andrew's hand.
Yeah, I really like to see Lifeborn Zombie in action, and the reason for that is because exactly what you mentioned, this Intimidator, everything that it's doing, here's a Mysium Mortars with Overload, going to clear those things out of the way, but it got a spell and dealt 6 points of damage. That's a good investment in 1 card.
Right. it'll be interesting to see whether or not Andrew wants to trade away this Voice of Resurgence. My guess is he won't, but it actually looks like, yeah, he's offering the trade.
Now, in this situation, Matthias, because your guess is that he wouldn't, would you want to make that trade if you're Tenjum or not?
Well, it really depends on what the last card in my hand is. The Elemental has the potential to be a lot bigger, but at the same time, you're giving up half a creature,
okay.
Which is like, I might just want that extra life that's afforded by having the Voice in play.
Here is the Boogeyman in Olivia Voldaren. Missy and Mortar's no longer in Tenjum's hand.
I was going to say exactly that. This was the intention all along from Erik Smith. He was trying to clear the way for Olivia Voldaren.
And now the card that Tenjum drew this turn to go along with the Voice of Resurgence in Temple Garden is a Burning Earth. And this is the situation that you had talked about. Okay, if he's ahead a little bit, then playing Burning Earth here is okay, but I think we're at parity, or even you could argue that Erik Smith is ahead, being at 18 life versus Tenjum at 12, and having an active Olivia Voldaren, where is Burning Earth really very good in this situation?
This is close. Burning Earth's reasonable because now it costs 7 life for Erik to ping and steal a creature. That said, once Erik pings and steals just one creature, that may even be enough to win the game, so he might still do it, and if he does in that situation, I don't think the Burning Earth is very helpful.
Yeah, Burning Earth is this very interesting card. Its power level is undeniable, but it's situationally good. And like Tenjum, we're not quite sure if it's the situation necessary for it to actually be good in. As you see, Tenjum is going to play a Voice of Resurgence pre-combat, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for the Burning Earth play. Just probably for lack of something else to do. He can't, the other line is for him to try to face off with an Olivia Voldaren. That's a play I certainly don't like.
That's an unenviable position, trying to beat an active Olivia Voldaren when you don't have a removal spell. Staring that thing back in the face is nobody's friend. And you see, he's got a land in his hand. He could play the land and activate the township too, but he's going to get in with everyone. And it looks like he might be threatening, hey, I've got a Gorkland Rampager. I had 2 last game. I've got 1 this game. I dare you to block.
Yeah, I mean, if Erik's hand is a bunch of lands and an Olivia Voldaren, Andrew can sneak some damage by right here. And I think he did. Erik took all of it. Erik can't afford to lose this Olivia, and a really aggressive play by Andrew.
Yeah, one of my favorite things in Magic when playing an aggressive deck is sneaking through damage and representing combat tricks that I don't have in my hand, but they do exist. Hopefully my opponent will give me some credit for it. This time, Smith does, a little bit scared, of a Gorkland Rampager. So now Tenjum, going through the math a little bit, can I afford to play a Temple Garden untapped and slam a Burning Earth? It looks like, Matthias, the answer is going to be yes.
So Andrew drops to 10. He's going to make the Burning Earth there. Yeah, in response, Erik's going to go ahead and ping that Voice of Resurgence.
Good choice, as that Voice of Resurgence is going to be a vampire now, too.
So Burning Earth plays just a mana barbs in this matchup. Neither player playing any basics in play. I think for me the question is going to be, I don't know that Andrew actually... I'm curious of who's actually winning the race right now.
So here's this really interesting thing. As if Thragtusk wasn't good enough, Matthias, the fact that this card doesn't really care about Burning Earth is crazy to me, because Smith can play a Thragtusk, take 5, and then gain 5, and he has a 5/3 to his board. So what Smith can do is say, all right, attack with Olivia in the air, shoot a guy because you're at 10, that's a 5/5. I'll take 2 to do that, go down to 11, play a Thragtusk, I got a 5/3 in the way on the ground, and then my Olivia is lethal the next turn, so I think that's probably what his play is going to be, but we'll see if he wants to pull the trigger on that or not.
Well, he's swinging the Olivia to put Andrew down to 6, and yeah, I think he's going to go with that. Remember, next turn he can also pay 5 life to just steal that Voice of Resurgence, as Olivia did turn it into a vampire.
And of course, because he doesn't shoot there, he puts Tenjum down to 6 instead of 5, but he can still make it a 2-turn clock. He can shoot on the end step, shoot on his turn, and get in for 6 points of damage in the air. So it looks like he may have missed the point of damage now, but he can just add to that damage later and still make it a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, it doesn't actually affect the clock. So I do like the play there.
The trouble here for Tenjum is that the Burning Earth is just not going to be good enough, because in order for him to get back into this game, with the way the board position looks, he needs to cast a spell.
Yeah, I believe Erik's actually still at 10. He gained 5 off the Thragtusk, but he then took 5 off his own lands.
So a trade's going to happen here between the Elemental and the Beast token. No shot here.
Well, he can do both shots on this turn if he wants to.
Okay. I think if you're Smith, you go for the win, right? Is there anything that you're terribly afraid of to make you not want to go for it?
I mean, I don't think so. I would want to go for it because I don't think you lose even if you fail at going for it.
Okay. You know, there are 2 copies of Selesnya Charm in Smith's deck. You're going to see him get to the red zone with the Beast token as well here, so that's a little bit interesting. I guess we could see a Keswick Wolf Run activation if he deems that necessary. Again, he has more life, 13 life at his disposal. Tenjum at a lowly 6.
Yeah, I think he's playing around the Selesnya Charm right now, keeping his Olivia at a 4/4. He may be even okay giving Andrew an extra turn because he just doesn't want to lose this Olivia.
Yeah, it looks like to me that he can actually afford to play around Selesnya Charm this turn. So you're going to see Tenjum, it looks like he's going to block that Voice of Resurgence, maybe a double block here. We'll see.
I'm still kind of surprised he hasn't stolen Voice of Resurgence. Well, at least he doesn't seem like he, you know, that was an option to him. It seems like he's figured that Voice of Resurgence is not worth 5 life.
Sure. So, gonna take 2. Shoot the Pilgrim once.
Right.
Shoot the Pilgrim again. Gonna take 2 more points of damage. Do you have Selesnya Charm
Gonna go for
and
the win.
Tenjum?
That's gonna be 6 if he's not careful.
The answer is
no.
no. Erik Smith is going to win game number 2. Tenjum will concede. Jund versus Naya. We are even up here in the finals of the Invitational.
Yeah, so I think we were talking about Burning Earth as a sideboard card. It's really hard to say that you don't want Burning Earth. Again, like when you first read the card, that people said, well, you know, why wouldn't you want it against a deck with all non-basics? And I think while I like Burning Earth as a card, I think it's interesting because I've never seen people get so excited about mana barbs before.
Well, look, we're tired of losing a Jund. That's hence the excitement.
So I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think the excitement is a little overblown at the moment because when you read the card, you think, oh, this is sick against non-basic decks, but because they actually put that conditional word on it, people have forgotten that it's just mana barbs. And, you know, mana barbs isn't actually good in every matchup. It's been in Standard a lot of times before and seen little to no play in Standard.
Yeah, you know, format dependent, you're going to see a card like that be really, really good. Sometimes you won't. And, you know, this isn't the first time that we've seen someone draw a Burning Earth against a Jund deck and still lose. So whenever something like that happens to me when I'm sideboarding, that sets off a huge red flag. It's like if I drew one of my sideboard cards in a matchup and then I ended up losing.
And it was bad.
It was mediocre to bad, or I just ended up losing. All right, this is not a card that I want to have in this matchup.
Exactly. So I do think that, you know, if regular mana barbs were around, we certainly would see it be played against Revelation decks. It's really a good weapon against them. I don't know if we'd be seeing as much play as I think Burning Earth is seeing play right now.
So you're not a Burning Earth fan, huh?
I like mana barbs.
Is that because you play Esper?
No, it's not that. Though that's a fair thing. I would like if everyone stopped playing Burning Earth. Then I could, you know, play different cards. But no, on top of that, I mean, I played mana barbs at pro level events before. I just, you know, how many times have you had a format where people are playing mana barbs in the main deck?
That's very, very rare.
It's very rare, but we're seeing people main decking Burning Earths right now, and I don't really see there being much of a difference.
Yeah, you know, I think that main decking Burning Earth is a pretty hasty maneuver. There are other decks in the format. There are a lot of matchups where it's pretty poor as well. You know, if you're guaranteed to play against Jund every single round, which you're not, I think it would be a reasonable decision, and it's certainly
not
the
even
ultimate
great.
gamble.
I don't even know if it's great. I'm unconvinced that it's good in this matchup.
It's just situational, just like Mana Barbs was. If you're ahead and you play with Mana Barbs, you're probably going to win. If you're on parity, or even a little behind, as Tenjum was in that game, it doesn't do anything for you.
Mana Barbs is great at sealing a game when you're ahead. It seals one up sometimes.
Yep.
It also, it can act as a burn spell if your opponent is a deck that, you know, just needs to continue to use mana. Oftentimes, you know, you'd see play against a ramp deck. You know, it's pretty good against ramp because ramp has no choice but to tap all its lands. It can't play without tapping its lands. It doesn't even matter if you're ahead. If you just play it on an empty board, they can have 3 spells for the rest of the game. But I don't think Jund is either of those things.
And the frustrating thing too is just that the interaction with Thraktos with Burning Earth, as if Thraktos needs to be any better. The fact that it's just like, okay, Burning Earth doesn't actually do anything, and I get to place a 5/3 on the board is absolutely crazy to me. Thraktos, go away. It's time to go.
And so it looks like both players are going to be on 6 for this game.
Mulligan,
Yep.
favor either player?
A little bit to Andrew. I think his spells cost a little less, so less things need to come together to get a keepable 6.
Okay.
Does it really favor either player? No, not too much.
Okay. If you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Matthias Hutt here in the booth. Star City Games Open Series featuring the Invitational here in New Jersey. You can, of course, join us on Twitter at SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI for your tweets. you can predict who you think is going to win the finals here. Are you a Naya fan? Are you on the side of Andrew Tenjum? Or are you a Jund fan? And on the side of Erik Smith here as we look to crown a champion.
Erik Smith, actually a local from New Jersey, I believe. Whereas Tenjum we had from Illinois, making the trip out to the Invitation.
Yeah. Tenjum getting around, we often see him in the area when we're around St. Louis. We saw him when we were in Milwaukee. He travels to the Invitationals. He's getting around the circuit. He's placing pretty well, and now he makes his first Invitational top 8 and has the opportunity to become a champion. Not to take anything away from Erik Smith. Both these players have very, very similar resumes on the Open Series. This is both of these players' first Invitational top 8, and whichever one does win this tournament, it's going to be a big stepping stone in their Magic career.
And both of them defeating, a titan of the format in the semifinals. We saw Andrew Tenjum took down Jerry Thompson in 3 games, and Erik Smith defeated Dave Shields in 5. Both of their opponents were playing blue, white, red.
Smith's going to take a second mulligan, so he's going to be going down to at least 5 cards, hopefully for him, not any less. But yes, both of these players got paired against juggernauts.
Right.
2 players who are consistently playing on the Pro Tour, in Dave Shields and Jerry Thompson. Both of their resumes are very extensive. You guys are probably very familiar with both of those players at home. To be able to defeat both of those players and make it to the finals is an impressive accomplishment in and of itself.
Right. So you can't say that these people, they are not. They are certainly both battle tested, having made it to this finals.
Yeah, I mean, they're not here on accident. And for Erik Smith, the legacy deck that he played, he was very, very happy going 7-0-1 with his blue, white, red Delver Blade deck. Tenjum playing Jund on his end. Both these players had really, really good weekends. Excuse me, I take it back. Tenjum is one of the 4 Shardless Bug players.
Yeah, the full 4: James Buckingham, Michael Braverman, Jerry Thompson, and Andrew Tenjum, all making the top 8 with Shardless Bug for this tournament.
A lot of people felt that was the best legacy deck coming into this tournament, and it looks like it may have been, as Smith is going to draw his opening hand. You see a Rootbound Crag, a Bonfire of the Damned, also has a Scavenging Ooze, and he is happy enough with his 5 cards.
It has a 2-drop, and it has enough lands so that it can play the game. That's pretty good for a 5.
Tenjum's not out of the gates very, very quickly, as here's a second Rootbound Crag here from Smith, but we do know that while he's not out of the gates that fast, his threats are so big that he can still close out a game pretty quickly. Domri Naya going to get the show started for him.
Yeah, Andrew's, I think, trying to recover a little bit. He had the choice between leading out on Smiter and leading out on Domri, and he really quickly made the decision to lead out on Domri Rod. Saying that this game could definitely go late. I would rather have more cards than you than opposed to having a fast clock.
So he's going to be able to keep upping the Planeswalker over the course of this game, get to that emblem. We saw him get to the emblem against Jerry Thompson in Game 1 of their semifinals match. And that emblem is borderline unbeatable, as here's a Loxodon on Smiter, going to fight that Scavenging Ooze with the Domri, play a Forest, Absence Pilgrim, and pass the turn back.
Right, so Andrew has taken the fact that his opponent has missed the second land drop and really he's taking it to the bank here, getting rid of his opponent's blocker, just continuing to develop his board state.
Smith draws a Blood Crypt for the turn. Does he want to play it tapped or untapped? Can he afford to take 2 damage at this juncture? And does he have anything to do with it? If he does, as there's a Scavenging Ooze, he's going to go with it untapped. A Loud Declaration and a Tragic Slip if there ever was one.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have a read on Tragic Slip here because he didn't leave up green mana.
Yep.
And that's a really big tell because you'd think, wait, Scavenging Ooze should be eating Scavenging Ooze, eating the ooze in the graveyard to get bigger. So yeah, I think Tragic Slip, this is definitely a read on Tragic Slip.
I don't think it's too difficult for Tenjum to play around in this situation. He's going to get in with the Elephant. Ooze going to not block.
That puts Erik Smith down to 14, and Andrew continues to develop his board presence. What we mean here is, if you count the number of permanents on the board, Erik has 1 to Andrew's, 3.5. I would count the mana creatures, not a full threat, but Andrew's a full 3 threats on the table.
Yeah. Again, Tenjum's deck isn't one that's going to bust the walls down. He doesn't have Flint of Core. He's not an aggressive Naya Humans deck with the board or like a Blitz type strategy. But again, his threats are so efficient and they're large. Smiter's a 4/4, Reckoner's a 3/3 that's incredibly difficult to block, that he can actually close out games pretty quickly. And don't forget about Thundermaw Hellkite. That's probably looming somewhere within his 60.
So on Andrew's turn, we see he does have that Gorkland Rampage in hand, also as a combat trick. He's really just doing this thing with that Naya. This is the Naya game plan. It has so many efficient, powerful threats at 2, 3, and 4.
I love the Voice of Resurgence play pre-combat. We saw him do this a lot against Jerry Thompson, because if Smith is going to cast a Tragic Slipper, a Putrefier, or a Doomblade, you're going to give me an Elemental token to do that, and it's going to be around 4/4 or 5/5 status. Ooze looks like it's going to get in front of the Smiter, remove the opposing Ooze. Going to gain a life for the moment.
It gains life, and it's just a chump block. He just did that just to gain 1 life. He'll take 3 more here. You know, dropping him to 12, but I think more importantly, he's now down 4 threats to 0 on the board.
Can't even afford a Tragic Slip right now. What do you Tragic Slip if you're Smith?
I mean,
it's morbid.
Yeah, you Tragic Slip nothing. You're turning one of his creatures into a 4/4 by playing Tragic Slip.
Yeah.
His biggest creature is a 4/4. I don't think that's something you really want to do.
Farseek here, a little late for Erik Smith. Going to search out an Overgrown Tomb. He will play on, but I think, Matthias, that Mr. Tenjum has a Gore Clan Rampager in his hand. If that is the case, we're looking at an attack for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
14.
Yeah, we're looking at 14 damage.
Not to mention, you actually have more than 14. You have 18 with the Domery Rod fight. Andrew could force his creatures to fight the Reckoner and then shoot that damage for the... So, yeah, he could do a full 18 on this attack.
So I don't think Erik Smith is going to get an untap. I don't think he's going to get to see another card this turn. Tenjum going to turn everybody sideways. Smith lifts up his pen, says, do I get another turn? Tenjum says, I don't think so. No. Blood Rush, a Gore Clan Rampager. We're going to be going to game number 4. Andrew Tenjum up 2-1 over Erik Smith playing Jund.
All right, so this is Andrew Tenjum knocking on the door of winning his first invitational top 8.
One more. Just needs one more win, and he will be the invitational champion. He'll win $10,000. He'll hoist a trophy, and his likeness will be on a card. I asked Tenjum, what likeness do you want to be if you do win? And he says, I want to be a Voice of Resurgence token, man. I've been chopping people up with that bad boy all day long, and I want to have my face on there. So that's what we might see if we can win one more game.
Considering how much of Voice of Resurgence we've been seeing in this finals and in the match before, it seemed to be a pretty fitting token.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Voice of Resurgence was paramount for him against Jerry Thompson, as it's supposed to be against Blue White Red Flash, and you know, your Esper and just overall your Hollow Fountain Glacial Fortress strategies. And to be fair, it's actually looked pretty good against this deck. A lot of people think the Voice of Resurgence isn't good in the mid-range mirrors, and while I don't think it's great, I think there's the mid-range mirror that it's bad against is Junk Reanimator. I think it's perfectly acceptable against Junk.
Well, in Junk Reanimator, creatures don't really attack.
Yeah.
It's really just this... Junk Reanimator tries to board stall until it plays Mythic Rares, and I think that's why you see, you know, a card like Voice of Resurgence, which is just a vanilla creature followed up by a larger vanilla creature, not as relevant. But in the Jund matchup, as you've seen here, both decks are attacking each other. They're trading creatures. There's combat, and a 2/2 that later on turns into, you know, a 3/3 or 4/4 is a pretty good card. It follows the path of, you know, undercosted 4/4s, which is really kind of what Naya's doing.
Yeah, that's basically what this deck is based around. Just undercosted, efficient threats, trying to get your opponent dead. Let Domri allow you to keep drawing those undercosted, efficient threats, and hopefully they're good enough to take the game down. For Andrew Tenjum, that strategy's been working out pretty good so far this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you see the sideboards up on the screen yet again as we go into game number 4 here. Again, I don't feel like much is going to change. Neither player has really gone back to their sideboard. They are just both shuffling very quietly here. And, you know, I think that Burning Earth maybe should go back to the sideboard for Tenjum, but if it isn't broke, don't fix it. He is up 2 games to 1. Would you change anything? Or maybe we overlooked something?
Nothing in particular. I really, you know, neither player has seen very many board cards out of the other person. Andrew saw that Erik Smith is playing Lifebane Zombie. He saw that one out of the board. Erik saw Burning Earth out of the board from Tenjum, but otherwise players have both just played main deck cards, and neither one of them has a particularly good answer to the sideboard card they've seen. So I think as a result of that, I don't know if there's a reason that any player would be changing what they're doing.
Alright, so game number 4, Erik Smith will be on the play with his Jund deck, trying not to mulligan down to 5 again. Tenjum on the draw with Naya. Let's see how happy Smith is with this 7.
Alright, so this time we get another full game that's fully equipped. We get a 7/7.
Alright, Blood Crypt, Temple Garden. There's a Woodland Cemetery. Now here's the God Draw in Farseek.
Yeah, well, the Farseek, especially on the play for Jund, I really like in this matchup, because like I said, Andrew's threats are on the curve at 2, 3, and 4, whereas Erik's threats tend to be more 4 and 5. So when Andrew Farseek's on the play, you know, he'll make his first threat on 4 this turn, most likely. Andrew make his first threat on 3 on his turn, and suddenly both players are making threats at the same pace, and then because Erik's threats are a little bit bigger, it really favors him.
Now this is a big play here from Smith. The Lifebane Zombie is going to show a hand of Thundermaw Hellkite, locks it on Smiter ×2, a Rootbound Crag, a Goreclan Rampager, and a Domri Rade. Now this is a really, really nice hand from Tenjum. He's got action for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, this hand has 17 power worth of creatures in it and a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
And can cast all of them on curve. So it's, you know, a pretty scary hand to be looking at across the board. He may just probably take a Smiter, well, he can't. It's interesting. I think he may not take a Smiter because he can't actually stop Tenjum from casting a Smiter. So he has definitely taken Goreclan Rampagers, which is what I believe we'd see him take.
Yeah, I think if I'm in this situation, you know, depending on Smith's hand, we know he does have a Thragtusk and a Putrefy. I think I would take the Rampager just because it's like this unique effect. It might be a little bit difficult for me to play around, depending on how the pacing of the game is going to go.
Yeah, if there were only one Smiter would be a great pick.
Easy take.
Then he doesn't have a 3-drop, but you know he's going to make a turn 3 Smiter no matter what.
Yep.
And once you're on turn 4, Rampager is just kind of a better Smiter.
Yep. So, Last Smiter is going to come down from Tenjum. We knew that was going to happen. Here's a Dragon Skull Summon here for Smith. See if he's going to go with one of those 2 Thragtusks that he does have in his hand. But I think this starts by attacking with that Lifebane Zombie.
And this is where that Farseek is so good. You see, Tenjum has the curve of, you know, Smiter, Rampager, Hellkite, where Smith has the curve of Lifebane, Thragtusk, at the exact same pace, all thanks to the Farseek.
Farseek going to be a big deal in this matchup. You know, if Smith's able to take this game down and we move to a 5th and final game, you best believe that when he's on the draw against Tenjum, he's going to be looking for a Farseek hand.
Yeah, on the draw, he needs it, you know. So right now, we basically have each player making their first creature, then their second, then what will probably be their third. Erik got to go first because he was on the play and had a Farseek. On the draw, he goes second if he has a Farseek making creatures, but without the Farseek, that's when he can really far behind.
So Smith opts not to play a Thragtusk. He's just going to pass the turn back to Tenjum. It feels like he might be trying to entice Tenjum a little bit by playing Domri and then going to try to fight the Lifebane Zombie, but I can't imagine that that's a play that Tenjum would be interested in making just because 5 mana opening against a Jund deck, you know they've got instant speed removal.
Yeah, it's a little confusing that Erik seems to be ahead on the board, but he's opting, instead of playing more 5-drops to continue pressure on the board, he wants to play a more control-oriented game. And that seems to be his style in this matchup. He doesn't want to try to race creatures with Tenjum.
Well, I think, you know, and I think I agree with his overall game plan, but at the end of the day, I think that with how his hand is lined up, that he needs to adjust. Well, he needs to go towards Thragtusk.
Yeah, well, the difficulty here is if he doesn't have an answer to Thundermaw Hellkite, then he has to. Then playing like this is really suspect. I do think we saw a Doomblade out of him, so it looks like he does have that answer.
He did just draw a Doomblade, so he does have that answer. Thragtusk is going to join the party now. Smith's going to go up to 21. As Tenjum untaps and he draws, you see that Burning Earth is in his hand again. Yet again, not very good.
You're saying he didn't have the Doomblade when he made the first play.
Correct.
It's very, so interesting line there. Like I said, I think if he's boarded in enough removal, he can count on the removal showing up. You can count on those Thragtusks to buy him enough time to get to it. But I also like your comment about Burning Earth. Once again, Andrew has a Burning Earth, but he's too far behind for it to mean anything.
Yeah, he's got some serious catching up to do. Thankfully for him, his threats are both efficient and powerful, so he can slam down some haymakers like a Goreclan Rampager that he has. I mean, that's exactly what he's going to do and start to gain some ground here. But don't forget, that Lifebane Zombie got to take a card. It's gotten in for 6 points of damage so far. We might see it get in for its 9th point of damage now.
Yeah, we really just can't underestimate how good Lifebane Zombie has been this game for Erik, and just has been in the tournament in general against these green decks. Not only is it getting those cards in hand, but which I think we knew it would be getting green and white creatures, but a 3/1 Intimidator has been a really relevant body.
You see, Smith didn't want to block the Lockstone Spider. He wants to be trading creatures on offense, not on defense. So he's going to attack with his Thragtusk. Goreclan Rampager is going to block. Beast Token comes in. Thragtusk, the follow-up there for Smith, goes to 22 and passes the turn back. Sitting pretty much in the driver's seat right now as Tenjum is trying to catch back up and having some serious difficulty doing so.
Well, he doesn't have the land, number 5, to get his Thundermaw Hellkite out. And every turn he misses on that land, he gets farther behind, as we're kind of seeing here. To be honest, he's not in the worst spot if he can trade away that trade his Smiter with say he makes a Thundermaw Hellkite the next turn, and then he trades a Smiter with a Thragtusk. He does have a Mizium Mortars in hand they can overload just to clean up the entire board.
Yep. So we'll see if that's what he's going to play towards. There's Domri. That's going to fight that Lifebane Zombie. So Tenjum says, no more damage, please. He does have a Temple Garden as well. Do not forget to play that. That's pretty important to your game plan right now, Andrew.
So I understand, yeah, he opted to play that fight that fight to him was more important than the Thundermaw Hellkite. I think he's going to use the Thundermaw Hellkite to clean up post-Mizium Mortars.
Smith draws his card for the turn. It's a Kessig Wolf Run. He could go Doomblading here to clear out the Smiter, which is what he's going to do. He's going to attack for 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's make it 9 with an activation of Wolf Run for 1. Going to put Tenjum down to 2.
Yeah, Kessig Wolf Run, one of those cards that's always better than you think it is every time you play it. You know, out of John, you're just keeping mint. I think the card just gets better every time I see it.
The card is absolutely incredible as Domri is going to tick up. Does it find a creature? It does in Boros Reckoner, so not bad. But does he have 2 things to do this turn? Can he play a Reckoner and Mizium Mortars that token?
Yeah, because he's already used the Domri, he can't... Yeah, there's actually not very many ways he can get rid of both of these.
Yeah, I think the issue is that he's 1 mana short because he can play a Reckoner right now, which is what looks like he's going to do.
I think he's going to play Reckoner, Mizium Mortars the token, and then hope to trade the Reckoner with the Thragtusk.
The problem is that the Reckoner can't gain first strike.
So it's actually just going to trade.
Well, so what's going to happen is the Reckoner can't gain first strike, so the Wolf Run is going to be the problem. Yes, and so right now what Tenjum is doing is he's trying to bluff a Selesnya Charm. I think he's going to put that Boros Reckoner in front of that Beast token.
But even then, if Smith tramples the Beast,
he would just trample the Beast, and then we get the job done. Tenjum comes to that realization, and Erik Smith is going to win game number 2, and it's only fitting that we're going to go to a 5th and final game to figure out who's going to be our Star City Games Invitational Champion.
Right. So matching up both times, it's really been about who grabs control of the board earlier, and we've been noticing a lot of that. I think in both Standard and Legacy at this Invitational, board control has been really important.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And, you know, you see the importance of Farseek from the Jund deck and how it's just an irreplaceable effect. You know, as good as Scavenging Ooze is to let you have another 2-drop in your deck, the fact that Farseek lets you play Olivia Voldaren and Hunt Master of the Fells ahead of schedule, as well as Garrett Primal Hunter and Thragtusk, it makes the deck just go into overdrive.
Yeah, I mean, the Scavenging Ooze has trouble making itself relevant in the matchup. And that's not to say that, you know, it can't become a 4/4, but I think the harder thing is that it requires mana to become a 4/4. Yeah. You know, you have to play your Scavenging Ooze for 2, and to make it, you know, I think 4/4 is the relevant size in the matchup. That's when a creature really starts working. Then you have to pay 2 more mana, and that's just really hard for Jund to find time to do that and still play its game plan how it wants to. So because of that, you know, Jund's life, like, its threats start at 4 mana for the most part. It's Olivia, Thragtusk, and Hunt Master of the Fells. It's really, its early game is all removal spells.
Yeah, and removal spells and Farseek, that's really about it. As we're going to see both players shuffle up here. If you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Matthias Hunt, StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational. We're here in New Jersey. We're watching Erik Smith and Andrew Tenjum move on to a 5th and final game to crown an Invitational champion. We'll see who'll be hosting that trophy, who will win $10,000, and most importantly, who's going to have their likeness on a card. So, Matthias, 1 game for it all. Who you got?
Well, I guess in the previous games we saw Erik lose one of them based on a mulligan to 5. I liked Jund initially looking at this matchup, but when Andrew's been on the play, I think his draws have been unstoppable, and it seems like his deck has been the more powerful one in this top 8. I would go ahead and give this edge slightly to Andrew.
If Erik Smith has a turn 2 Farseek on the draw, I'm giving it to Erik. If he does not, I'm giving it to Andrew.
Yeah, the big danger, he said before, is that if Andrew starts his curve on 2 and Erik doesn't have a Farseek, Andrew can grab control of the board before Erik's in the game. Especially with, we saw him do that before when his 2-drop was Voice of Resurgence. Because when Erik doesn't have a Farseek, that means he has a kill spell, and a kill spell doesn't take the board pressure off Voice of Resurgence because it still makes another creature.
Tenjum's going to take a look at his opening hand. He is not happy. He's going to go down to at least 6 cards. Let's see how Erik Smith feels about his starting 7.
Andrew's hand was a lot of removal spells, and which is not very good in this matchup. Jund is the removal spell deck. Naya needs to be the threat deck. If it tries to go late with Jund, it's going to find itself running into cards like Olivia Voldaren and Thragtusk, cards that it really doesn't interact very well with.
You see Smith, he's going to keep his 7 cards, and I did get a glimpse. I did see a Farseek in that hand. I think I may have seen 2 copies. He looks happy, happy, happy.
Well, the second Farseek out of Jund, a lot worse than the first,
Absolutely.
I would say.
Absolutely.
But having 1 is so important that if you could have 0 or 2, I'm pretty sure the answer is 2.
I would say 2 as well. So, So, Mr. Tenjum, is it maybe your turn to take a mulligan down to 5 cards as Eric Smith had to? Wouldn't be the best time to do so with your tournament life at stake. Second place not bad, but I think Tenjum probably wants first.
So he's looking for a 6 at least that he can keep here. What Andrew still's going to want to do is just to get a good curve in his hand. You know, he's going to be down a couple cards, which maybe means his late game won't be as powerful because he's going to be running out of cards a little bit sooner. But as long as his early game is still solid, a 6-card hand will be just fine in this situation.
I've seen Avacyn's Pilgrim, multiple copies of Scavenging Ooze. There's a Sun Petal Grove as well, but how slow is his hand?
It may be the only land in the hand is what it looks like to me. I would still say he's going to keep it instead of mulliganing to 5, if I were to guess.
I'm certainly going to think about it, and he is going to go down to 5, so to each their own. Tenjum taking his first mulligan to 5 in this match at the worst possible time on the play in game number 5. Doesn't mean it's over, it's just going to be a lot more difficult now.
Well, I think the reason you'd make that play is you could keep the 1-land Avacyn Pilgrim hand, but he's almost going to be dead to something like Pillar of Flame if he keeps that hand.
Yeah, Tragic Slip, either one of those cards. Heck, even a card like Dreadbore can take care of the Avacyn's Pilgrim and just make life incredibly difficult for Tenjum. Also, as you mentioned as well, Scavenging Ooze doesn't really get to the board very early. I mean, it is a 2/2, but it's not really going to be able to grow until around turn 5 or turn 6, so that's not the aggressive threat that you're looking for.
And another 1-land mana creature hand, but I think by virtue of the fact that it's on 5 cards, he's probably going to keep it.
And it's an Arbor Elf. It's not even Avacyn's Pilgrim. So Smith is going to draw his card. Stomping Ground. It's going to be a Blood Grip. Pass the turn back.
There's a chance to hit something. And
oh
he hits
my
God,
right. That's insane.
He is still in the game. He gets to have his turn 2 Domri round.
That is insane. Domri going up. Does he hit?
And he hits Thundermaw Hellkite. No, to be fair, he's a long ways away from casting it, but he has a hope.
Pillar of Flame, the draw here for Eric Smith. Is he going to Farseek or is he going to Pillar?
Well, Eric doesn't know yet what's going on with Andrew's hand. If he knew that Andrew kept a 1-land mana creature hand, I think he would snap Pillar. For all he knows, though, Andrew kept all lands on a Domri.
Pillar it is.
Pillar it is.
Draw. Up goes Domri.
So Andrew, it looks like with no play this turn.
That could just be a land on the top.
He can make a Celestia Charm Knight on end step.
Yep.
I think he'll probably do it just to continue to commit to the board.
I agree. Here's a Farseek. Going to play Stomping Ground tapped as well as Smith. So he's going to search out a land. He's going to go up to 4 mana sources at the end of his 3rd turn.
Yeah, especially Andrew knows his next draw, which is most likely a land. One awkward thing about his draw is that Boros Reckoner won't be able to be cast off whatever his 3rd land is.
Yeah.
Boros doesn't do anything toward getting Reckoner. But there's another thing he has in play, and that's that Domri can ultimate very soon.
There's a Smiter. Did he draw a land?
I think it was a Mizzium Mortar, so it's one of those few non-creature, non-land cards in his deck.
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned is actually very true, though. We're almost near Domri Ultimate, though.
Yeah, Domri Ultimate number at 7. Eric Smith needs a Dreadbore, a burn spell, a something. We see a Dreadbore though in his hand.
And he just drew that Dreadbore to get himself out of this situation. Huntmaster of the Fells, Putrefy in his hand as well. Don't forget about that other Farseek and that Bonfire of the Damned, as here is that Farseek.
Yeah, he had a couple other options if that hadn't worked out. He could have Bonfired the Domri for 2. He could have played Huntmaster and then played no spells on his turn. You know, there were options for him to deal with Domri Rod, but I think by far the cleanest option he has is the Dreadbore.
Boros Reckoner, the draw for Tenjum. Looks like he has 2 of those in his hand. So I think he's going to start his turn by attacking for 2 with the Reduke token.
Yeah, interestingly, Eric Smith decided to hold up Putrefy here instead of Dreadboring the Domri Rod. And it did, remember, give Andrew an extra card. Granted, Andrew is stuck on 2 lands, and Eric has 6. He's in a great position. But if Andrew starts drawing lands, it's that whole land screw versus land flood situation.
Yep.
You know, every turn's going to be a threat for the whole game if he gets there.
All right, well, there's a land, Clifftop Retreated. It's one that can come into play untapped for Tenjum as well. So he's got some work to do. But as you mentioned, a lot of times, land screw beats land flood as soon as you start drawing land. So if he can do a little runner, he can get himself back into this game.
He can get back into the game. The danger is that because he was supposed to be the aggro deck in this matchup, Eric Smith actually has stronger creatures than Andrew has. So not only does Erik have the mana advantage, but the spells he's going to play are going to be a lot better. Andrew's going to have to try to find, he'll be looking for any way to make his cards trade with the more powerful Jund creatures, knowing that if they continue to trade all game, Andrew will probably be the one with the last card standing.
So Mizium Mortars here from Tenjum. Instead of playing Loxodon on Smite, do you like that play?
I'm a big fan of this play. There's so much value in Erik passing the turn with the Huntmaster, letting it turn into a 4/4, killing the Knight token. Remember, Tenjum just needs to trade cards here. And by trading a Mizium Mortars for that Huntmaster, he's not letting, he's stopping Smith from getting all this value.
Tenjum draws a Domri for his turn.
Domri's a great card. I do think Andrew still is going to go with Loxodon Smiter. He just needs to make threats.
Yeah, I think he just needs to keep making threats. I'm with you as well. I think he's got plenty of threats. He just needs to find lands and deploy threats and make it so that Erik Smith has to just kill each threat.
I do want to notice that for the third time, he actually has drawn a Burning Earth once again. I think he's 3 for 3 on drawing Burning Earths in situations where Burning Earth hurts him more than it hurts his opponent.
Putrefy's going to take care of the Smiter. Huntmaster that falls off the top going to come into play. Smith's last card in his hand is a Bonfire of the Damned, I believe.
Yeah, so still another land miss for Andrew Tenjum. He drew a second Thundermaw Hellkite. Domri Rod finds an Absence Pilgrim. He's a little far behind because Smith's going to get so much value off this Huntmaster flip.
So Smith does have a Bonfire, draws a Tragic Slip for the turn. He can attack here for 2, 4, 6. Could Bonfire for 3, that'll make it 9, put Tenjum down to 2, and then threaten a Huntmaster flip for the rest of the game if he wants to.
Right, so yeah, as you said, a swing for 6, a flip for 2, making 8, and then you said a Bonfire
for 3.
So that's actually 11.
Yeah. So what he can do right now is he can attack here for 6, put Tenjum down to 5, Bonfire for 3, and then put Tenjum down to 2, and then make it so that Tenjum has to have a spell every turn, flip the Huntmaster. But Huntmaster's just going to flip now, going to put Tenjum down to 3.
Well, Tenjum needs to gain life.
Yeah.
Because Smith has a 3-point burn spell in hand.
Yep. Either way we do the math, if he wants to do the 2 now or do the 2 later, it adds up to 11.
Well, I like that he did the 2 now because that means if Tenjum has a removal spell for Ravager of the Fells, that's no longer good. Ravager has already done its 2 damage.
There is a Boros Reckoner. It's gonna fight the Wolf token.
And
Fight
deal 3
this.
to the other Wolf token.
There's an Avacyn's Pilgrim. And now
back, and I think Erik
Smith
Smith knows
is going to untap immediately, cast Bonfire of the Damned for 3, and that is it! Erik Smith, your Star City Games Invitational Champion.
Now, Erik Smith, I think just battling his way so hard through this top 8, it took him coming back from 1 to 2 to defeat James Buckingham, coming back from 0 to 2 to defeat David Shields, and then in the finals, once again trading blows with Andrew Tenjum, coming back from 1 to 2 to win the finals.